Alright, hi, welcome to my channel today, and from today henceforth I'll be teaching you basic typography. Well, this is the very core basic of art itself. This is the basic of writing, and every other form of artwork you've seen. Let's look for letter art. Every other form of letter art you found comes from basic understanding of typography. So you can see where people do things like this, things like this, things like this. They all come from the basic typography. Once you know how to make the basic typography, then you can learn to make letter art in any form you're looking for. So let's get back to it. I have a checklist here. This is the introduction. So my name is Nicholas. I think I'll write that down so we can all see that. My name is Nicholas, and henceforth I'll be taking you guys all through this. And I've been a graphics designer for 2 years. Should I say, sorry, let me complete that statement. I've been a vector graphic designer for 2 years. So you might be wondering why I added the word vector at the front of it. Well, there are two kinds of graphic designer out there, and a lot of people make the mistake of saying every graphic designer is a graphic designer. There is the vector graphics designer and there is the raster graphics designer, and the most common ones are the raster graphic designers. What's the difference between a vector graphics designer and a raster graphic designer? Well, a raster graphic designer is one who deals with images. So they deform images, distort images, they try to make an image fit the necessary conditions that they want to use it for. So for example, your photographers out there, most of them are raster graphic. In fact, every photographer out there is a raster graphic designer the moment they can hit and edit on a video or on a photograph and make it look as good as possible, or to fit the conditions needed as good as possible. The difference between it is this. So let's say let me get a vector image, a raster image. So this is a picture in my system, and I'm just going to place it right here for you to see. So this will signify raster graphics, and on the other hand, let's just get a square and a circle, right? So this will both signify for vector graphics. The difference is this: if I should zoom into this to the extent where it starts to deform, it doesn't just deform, it starts to form pixels. So that's what raster graphics is made of, pixelations. Raster graphics is made of pixels. You can see this dot, like on old screens in the 1960s, in the 1980s, 1990s, when your TV is having issues. You start to see, if you get real close to a television, you start to see those boxes that have a red, green, blue looks on it. That's what pixels are. Pixels are just dots of colors. So as you can see, this picture has gotten to its maximum. At this point, this was his best quality. This is the best you can zoom in to get an okay quality. The moment you go in further, you start noticing the noise around the edges. So you start noticing the pixels per se. It's not actually noise, it's the pixels. Where the pixel color, notice the change. So darker ones are those extreme dark lines, lighter ones are those light lines. So because the pixels get smaller as you zoom out, it becomes clearer to see, as compared to raster to vector graphics. Now vector graphics has to do with just points, majorly points. So if I click on here, you see this right in here is pixels and points. Adobe Illustrator is a vector application, and though you can create a little bit of raster in it, but it won't be as good as using Photoshop. As you all know, Photoshop is where the raster graphics design really lies on Adobe, while Illustrator is where vector graphics design lies on Adobe. So let's do the same thing we did for the pictures. If I zoom in to this, let's zoom into a rather pointy edge, and I'm still zooming in, you can see it's not getting deformed, it's not getting distorted. This is at 64,000% zoom, and yet there's no deformation. Let's try it with the circle. You can see the eclipse, or rather the circle, it's still not getting deformed. We're going to go up to the maximum. Yeah, at 64,000 right here. You can see it's still clean. So that's the very difference between vector and raster graphics design. So if you zoom in here, this is just at 6,400%. So at 6,400, I'm already getting the pixelation. So if I go in further, I'm not seeing any other thing. I'm just seeing the pixels one after the other. These are every pixel of the image. Because the image wasn't taken with extreme high quality camera, so the more quality the camera, the more pixels are produced. Not the more pixels like as this, but the pixels will be smaller, and you could get to see even further. You could get to zoom in even further to get more details. So that by the wayside, next on our agenda is a brief on typography. So for a brief on typography, I'm going to take you guys to Bing AI. So on Bing AI, I already asked the question, what is typography? So typography is the art and technique of arranging types to make written language legible, readable, and appealing when displayed. That is the basic of typography. Like, that is very, very basic typography, definition of typography. Now, one of the oldest and one of the most basic type of typography we find is the grid system. The grid system of typography is one of the old, I won't call it the oldest, but I'll call it one of the best and most basic form of typography. So the grid system goes like this. You can see all these letters right now. They are of similar height, first and foremost, but they are of different width, right? They are of different width. Let's create a grid. So for the first grid, we'll call it 100 by 100. To understand, this is not a basics in Adobe, but to understand Adobe, when it says horizontal dividers, let me just put one here. So when it said horizontal dividers, it was talking about the number of lines we would have in between, the number of lines that will appear. 1, 2, 3, 4. You see these lines? So this is the line is counting. So there are two grids basically used for. There are two kinds of grid basically used for very basic typographic writing. So there's the 5x5 and then there's the 3x5. The difference is for 3x5, the 3x5 system is used for slimmer letters. Now we're focusing on uppercases for this particular tutorial, and our focus remains on the uppercase letters, right? We'll only focus on the uppercase letters for this particular set of tutorial. The uppercase letter has both the lowercase and uppercase use the same number of grid, but the reason why we're focusing on the uppercase is because they both have two different things in it. The lower cases have a lot more curves. They deal with a lot more curves. Let me put that down somewhere so you can see. They deal with a lot more curves, and if we should deal with the lowercase, so I'm going to take this right now and I'm going to make it a lowercase for us to just examine a little bit. This is not a basic, but if you look here and here, you realize that the amount of curves that occur in this letter E is far more than the amount of curves in this E. The kind of curves in this S is more than this. Unlike the R, the curves are far more basic here than here. There's a complexity to the curve here. If you notice this stem here, the same thing with the U. The C is the same thing, just smaller. So let's get down to the grid system. So the grid system is what we use. This is the 5 by 5, and on the other hand we have the 3 by 5. We have the 3 by 5 system. So I hope you understand this very basic system of typography. On subsequent videos, I'll be teaching you what letters apply to the different grid system and how to be able to know it. You could also learn this with those sketchbooks. You know, those sketchbooks that come with grid, they are very good. It's the same thing. So you just mark out exactly 5 by 5 grid system and 3 by 5 grid system. So if you're looking to learn this using your hands, not using a laptop, maybe you don't have a laptop, you don't have a system, or you don't have a digital app, or you just want to learn the basic typography by hand, you could also follow along. The other thing you're going to need is curves. On the other hand, the best curve in the world is, as we all know, is the circle. So we're going to be using this. Artwork is made of lines and circles. That's just it. Every art you see out there is made of lines and circles. Then we'll also have smaller circles, which we also use. The smaller circles make the inner curves most times. So this is the basics of it. One of the simplest letters to make out of this is the letter I. Letter I is by far the letter I is a letter that doesn't require any stress whatsoever. I'm just gonna put it out here so you get to see. The letter I is just this. That's just letter I. Every other thing is absolutely unnecessary. When it comes to the letter I, it is by far the best and simplest letter in the alphabet. But there are two ways to design the letter I. So there are two kind of ways. There's that, and then there's this. So as you can see, if you get to learn the very basic system, you start to know of the small different ways you can make changes to make those beautiful artwork you want to make. Let's do it again. Yep, so that's just the basic tutorial. So subsequently, I'll be making videos on each and every letter one after the other, so you get and understand the differences of what letters applies to 5 by 5 and what letters apply to 3 by 5. So catch you on the next video. Thank you.